So what do you think of when you think of British professional wrestling, if you think about British professional wrestling? So perhaps you think of something like this, which is Big Daddy versus giant haystacks, enormous men fighting against each other. Saturday afternoon telly, your gran. Everyone has a gran that was into wrestling, or people of a certain age have a gran that was into wrestling. And normally this gran is a very demure lady normally, but when the wrestling comes on she turns into this monster and begins, you know, if she's sitting front row she's battering people with her handbag, okay, is that something? Or perhaps wrestling to you means that takes you back to being a small boy, fighting against your brother, and performing a tombstone pile driver to your brother, and your mum gave you such a row because it's the most dangerous thing you can possibly do, and on concrete as well. So maybe that's your abiding memory of wrestling. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, isn't British wrestling, as you watch these two large men hug each other for a while, isn't British professional wrestling something that died out in the 70s? ITV took it off the telly in the early 1980s, didn't it? Just die away, go away. Bigger, brasher American cousin come over. It all looked better. It was glitzier, brighter, it was quicker. Goodness me. They were substantially more muscular. Was it just not over? This is amazing. She's always going, what is this? This is the problem with having film in the background. I thought this was a great idea in practice. So maybe it's not that. Maybe it's something else. And I'm going to go to about here. Okay, and we'll leave that as doing this thing back. So this is, you've got the time in the background so you can see how long I'm going to go on for. So this is Kanji versus Charlie Evans. This is from a 30 women Iron Woman match. And the idea behind this is that you have a clock behind you, and there's 30 minutes gets put on this clock, and they fight for as long as 30 minutes, and the winner is how many falls you get, how many times you get to pin your opponent to the mat in that particular period of time. So this had a large build. At the moment these two are fighting outside the ring, it's all a bit brutal. So as you will see here, what you have here is two young women, one a woman of colour. Very different from Big Daddy, giant haystack style wrestling that you might have imagined British wrestling to be. It had a huge build-up, this match. This was, to have a 30-minute Iron Woman match is quite an unusual thing, even in today's day and age, to give women as much time as this and to kind of be celebrating this was kind of an astonishing thing. So let me explain what this is and what this isn't. So you might be sitting there going, hold on a minute, isn't that wrestling that fake stuff? So wrestling is fake in the same way as theatre is fake. So these are people performing characters, performing roles, telling stories in the same way as all of us here in this room do as theatre people. It's also extremely athletic and exciting and risky in the best sense of that word. So this goes back, this is a performance from a company called Wrestling Resurgence, which I had the great joy of being part of as a collaborator with these folks. So we set up Wrestling Resurgence originally coming out of my research. So I stand in front of you as a university lecturer. I'm a modernist, so I work on early 20th century theatre, particularly Russian experimental theatre. So it was a good departure. I'm also a wrestling fan. And in 2016 we decided, so my co-editors and I, Broderick Chow, Ira Lane, decided to put a book together, and Routledge went for it, amazingly, and we released Performance in Professional Wrestling in 2016. From that I did a series of small talks, because people like wrestling and they're kind of intrigued that I would be interested in wrestling. So I did a bunch of small talks, and from those talks two guys approached me, and they were arts curators at Attenborough Arts Centre in Leicester. And they came over and said, we love wrestling too, maybe we could do something together. I said, this would be great, let's do something. Wasn't quite sure what that something would be. And then we decided that we'd apply for the Being Human Festival, to get a small grant from the Being Human Festival, which we did, to put on, of all things, a wrestling show. None of us had any idea how to put on a wrestling show, by the way. And we put on this wrestling show and we sold out at Attenborough Arts Centre, and everyone went crazy. And then we got 2 more grants, small grants from, I say small grants, we won the De Montfort University Impact and Innovation Award. We won, I moved universities, and we had a new grant from Loughborough University, where I'm based now. And people kept throwing money at us, so we kept putting on shows. And then it turned into a self kind of funding company called Wrestling Resurgence, which since then, through one of my co-curators, Sam West, had Arts Council funding twice, quite substantial Arts Council funding. And basically our question is, what happens when you put wrestling in an arts venue? What difference does it make to the wrestling? And what difference does it make to the arts venue? And it makes quite a substantial difference. Firstly, the wrestling gets treated as art, which it should be. And secondly, your arts venue gets people in there who would never be in there normally. So it ended up, the stats seem to suggest that 80% of people who come along to our shows at Attenborough Arts Centre have never set foot inside Attenborough Arts Centre ever. A lot of these people are the kind of demographic that art centres find it really difficult to reach. So 18 to 25-year-old men in particular. I'm going to turn this up so that you can hear the final bit.
She's tapped! Kanji tapped!
Which you hear is mine, and my co-commentator Joe Caird. I want you just to see the crowd. So Charlie Evans wins this very last minute, like last second. So very I'm showing you this because I want you to see what this art form means to people. Julie and Joe screaming our heads up in the background, but also to the crowd, you can see it in this band, and also to these 2 amazing young women who were given this chance to do a 30-minute Iron Woman match and put on an incredible show.
Moment, and what a special moment it is. Evans!
I'm going to do that while Charlie Evans is rocking out. This project led to a whole range of things that I could never have foreseen. So I'm a fairly traditional academic by trade, and it's led into all sorts of really exciting new avenues for me. Arts Council funding, as I said, this company now has the global reach. So we have fans in Brazil, in New Zealand, in America, all done kind of through social media and through our own pay-per-view channel that we have. So we skirt round all the usual ways of doing things, put our shows up for £3 a pop, and you can watch it from wherever you are in the world, which is incredibly exciting to us. We have monthly shows now. We've sold out Nottingham Contemporary Art Gallery on Saturday night. So even if you were going to come, tough. So that's about 180 people to get into Nottingham Contemporary Art Gallery, which should be exciting. There's a bunch of new projects around this as well. So currently we're working towards thinking about health and well-being in professional wrestling. So I work at Loughborough University. For those of you who know think about things like this, you'll know that it's the world's best sporting university. So I work with some of the premier sporting academics in the entire world who are coming alongside me and talking about health and well-being and some of the health and well-being challenges around professional wrestlers. So we're basically kind of putting what the university is good at, and we're putting that at the service of the wrestlers that I kind of work with on a regular basis. We've done a project during the summer where we worked with a wrestler and a choreographer from Sadler's Wells Ballet. We were at the Wayne McGregor studio. We brought together ballet dancers and wrestlers in a room. And we're like, go make some work and see what happens. And that was extremely exciting, thinking about embodied performance practice and what that means to these 2 sets of people, thinking about contact improvisation and what that means. And the abiding memory for me is that one of the ballet dancers said, man, ballet is so much more violent than wrestling. And the reason for this is that what you've just seen there is a collaboration. It looks like a fight, but it's not. It's 2 people working together to create a show for you. So it's basically like contact improv. So one of the things that appeals to me the most is the fact that this thing called professional wrestling has a beautiful, collaborative, gracious, generous spirit at its heart that I feel can tell us a lot about how we can make art in the 21st century kind of moving forward. So what is British professional wrestling today then, as we look back to, I'll turn that down, you can watch the final bit of Evans and Kanji just celebrating with each other as I speak. So what is British professional wrestling today? Well, it's innovative, super innovative, really innovative storytelling, innovative moves. This is a beautiful moment which makes me get a bit teary. Just the respect between these two performers. It's diverse, so we have such a range of different people, both in the audience but also in the ring. It's committed, we are committed to inclusion, to equality. A lot of the things that wrestling has had real problems with in the past, by the way, but we are really trying to, and not just us, but a number of other companies, really trying to change that. And for me, it expands our understanding of what art might be. Here you have an arts venue with a whole bunch of people standing up, supporting and cheering on these two amazing performers, and it shifts and changes what our understanding of art might be. It allows us to broaden our understanding of this thing that we know as art. What might it be into the future? And best of all, for me anyways, it's my academic research directly connecting with people. So my academic research no longer just lives inside the academy where it sits and we just talk to each other about our academic research. Instead, the great joy of this for me is that it looks outwards and it asks people how to come in and to join in with that kind of collaborative co-creating process of academic and performance research. And I'm going to leave you with these two crying. Yeah, emotional. So yeah, thank you.